Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. Whether you're watching this message on video or listening to it on the radio, this is part of a series of messages where we look at the Old Testament and we see that Jesus is the center of the Old Testament. Every book in the Old Testament speaks about Jesus. And so we've been going through it book by book. And we've reached the book of Ezekiel, which we said yesterday is not the easiest book in the Bible to read by any means, but it's a book that speaks about Jesus. And so we should be grateful that it's there. Now, we talked about the Valley of Dry Bones, and we talked about how Ezekiel uses the phrase again and again, the Son of Man, a title that Jesus obviously claimed for himself. The book of Ezekiel also introduces the idea of God being a better shepherd. Now, of course, the idea of the Lord being a shepherd had already come up in the book of Psalms, Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, etc. But in Ezekiel, he takes us a step further in saying that not only is God a good shepherd, but as such, he is a massive contrast between God and bad spiritual shepherds. And Ezekiel prophesies against bad shepherds in Israel, false prophets. And then, just when you think he's going to say something like, well, because these false prophets are so bad, God's going to send some true prophets, or maybe you think he's even going to say, because in contrast with these bad prophets, listen to me, I'm a good prophet. But no, he actually says that God is the real prophet. God is the real shepherd. It's not a case of God, other people have sent bad shepherds, now God's sending good shepherds. He's saying, no, God is the ultimate good shepherd. And of course, Jesus is the fulfillment of this. The New Testament in the book of Hebrews chapter 13, verse 20, tells us that Jesus is the great shepherd of the sheep. And 1 Peter chapter 2 says he is the great shepherd and overseer of our souls. And of course, Jesus himself spoke about the shepherds who were basically false. They were false prophets, false shepherds. They were hirelings. They ran away when the wolf attacked the sheep. And he spoke about those who came to steal and kill and destroy, but he was the good shepherd who came to bring life for us. And even when we use the word pastor, which of course simply means a shepherd, any true pastor is somebody that in some measure reflects the ultimate pastor, the ultimate shepherd, which is Jesus. Ezekiel also says that God will judge the sheep, that God will divide the sheep from the goats. And if that sounds familiar, of course, it's because Jesus spoke very much about, in Matthew 25, for example, the Son of Man spoke to us about how he would separate the sheep from the goats. Ezekiel says that God will do this by setting up David as his prince, which is quite fascinating. When Ezekiel wrote his words, David was already dead and buried and his body had long decomposed. And yet he said God will set up himself as the true shepherd, and he will do this by setting up David as prince. And of course that was fulfilled in Jesus, the son of David. Ezekiel also prophesied that God would give us a new heart, a heart of, not a heart of stone, but a heart that God would give us, a heart like God's heart, a heart that is based on a relationship with God so we can hear his voice, a change of heart, the first ever heart transplant. And that's all in the book of Ezekiel, that Jesus is the good shepherd and Jesus is the one who gives us a new heart, because Jesus is the theme of every book of the Bible. And he's the theme of the book of Ezekiel. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.